Oh, hey, Archons. Welcome to another episode of KeyThoughts, my weekly musings on this great game of KeyForge, which is still going strong. And I have to say that a week off from KeyForge does the mind and KeyForge spirit good. So I took a week off from creating content, and I basically didn't play KeyForge the entire week. And didn't regret it. It was nice. It was a nice little time away. Came back feeling recharged and refreshed and super excited to keep playing KeyForge and seeing what possibilities exist within decks I own and decks I have yet to discover. So with that being said, today we're going to be talking about a little bit of a follow-up on a previous topic, which was the one I did before the hiatus, we'll call it. And that's where I talked about chaining yourself for important cards. And then we're going to go into this week's topic. But first, before we go any further, we are going to kick off with the card of the week. That's right, card of the week. And this week, I'm bringing to the table an interesting card known as the Sting. And for those of you not familiar with the Sting, it is an artifact that is a vehicle, and it says, skip your forge a key step. You get a pip for playing it, and then you get all the ember spent by your opponent when forging keys. As an action, destroy the Sting. So, this is a really interesting card, I think, for a lot of reasons. This card provides decisions. The reason why I like this card so much is if you have a deck that actually generates ember more slowly, like the ember generation number is a little bit lower, this can be a really great card to help you. Now, the key with this card, though, is you have to time it correctly. I think you can't just throw it on the board. You need to be a little bit careful when you throw it down, because if you have the potential to forge a key before dropping it, that may be more beneficial than just hanging on to it. But if you're in a position where that doesn't look like it's happening, your opponent's pushing pretty hard, drop that down. My favorite way to play it is actually when your opponent passes to you in check, you drop it, you know you're getting it, and then you just move on with your day that way. I think it's a fantastic card in that regard. It's like a nice fast burst into a key, and then hopefully you have some elusive shadows creatures so you can then call shadows again, pop it, get some ember that you have with your board, and laugh your way to the vault. Now, another interesting way you can use this is, because this came from a mass mutation deck, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't really seen it in any mass mutation decks I've opened prior to this, but in this one, it was particularly interesting because there were Fausts in the play, and anguishes, so ways you can increase the cost of keys, which is super interesting because if you can, or maybe it wasn't anguish in it, but there was a key cost increase within the deck. But within the realm of KeyForge, there's key cost increase, which means if you can actually increase your opponent's keys and play this, that means that you're going to get that much more ember. So it's all ember spent when they forge keys. So that I think is a very interesting proposition within the Sting that you can utilize to actually further get more ember. So sometimes you got to be patient with it. I even had the game against my friend where I played this, and I think I may have even held it for 2 keys worth, and I ended up winning that first game with the deck that this was in that way. And I literally just had like so much ember I hadn't forged, and there was no scaling ember, and I came back from being down 0 keys to 2 keys forged and winning the game just from that position, because it really helped having this. I had obviously turns behind, but it ended up working out okay. So the Sting provides a nice catch-up factor, even though you're going to be behind on turns, just because your opponent has the ability, you have to wait to forge those keys. So I think it really provides some interesting decision space within the game. So I'm a big fan of the Sting as interesting decision space within the game. Now, on to this week's topic, which is a quick little follow-up and then into the idea. It's more imposing a question to you, the community, as a KeyForge enthusiast, and we're going to get to that in just one second. So first off, I just want to do a follow-up. On my stream this past Saturday, I played my store leader deck, and I ended up going against a Omnipus deck. And it was not just an Omnipus deck, it was a good Omnipus deck with like 6 Tentaclids, I think. And in my opening draw, I had a nice chunk of Brobnar, I think, or I can't remember, was Shadows, one of the two. And in that was a Volcano. Now, when I had that Volcano, I knew that that was my board wipe in the deck. And I did not have anything else. So you know what I did? I knew when the Omnipus came, I was going to be in trouble if I couldn't take care of them. And being a 4 damage board wipe, we'll say, it took out all Tentaclids. So I decided I was going to hold on to that Volcano. And I talked this last time about chaining yourself for the end game if you knew it was a game-winning condition. And I did that. I proceeded to go the entire game holding Volcano. I did not cycle through my deck. The deck does not have a lot of efficiency. I didn't come close. I think I had at least 10 cards, if not more. And for those of you saying, well, if you change yourself, wouldn't you have been able to just get it back later? It's like, no, that is not the case. Because if I played it early and I cycle through my deck, then what happens is I shuffle my deck. And then I have to still draw it again. So I could actually have to go through my deck twice to get it. And since I barely got through once, that wouldn't have been a situation. And if the Omnipus had come out earlier, then I would have really been in trouble. I even held it and was considering using it. And then I looked, and Omnipus actually works where anything in the discard. So if you kill the Tentaclids early, it makes no difference because as soon as Omnipus comes out, they all come back. So I held it the entire game, like literally until my 3rd key. I was on that point. And then you know what my opponent did? My opponent dropped Omnipus at the end of the game. This was a bad news situation if I didn't have my Volcano, which I chained myself the entire game. My opponent played it, put all the Tentaclids. It was literally Omnipus and Tentaclids. That was the board. That's what their board was. And then you know what I did? Passed to me. I played Volcano, wiped the whole board except for one because I had an encounter suit on it. Encounter suit on it. So it was warded, couldn't get destroyed. You know what my opponent did then? My opponent conceded because that was their winning condition. And so me taking that decision to hold this card, which I knew would be the answer to their win condition, saved me the game. Because if I had not been able, if I had passed to them, they would have been able to really push it, and they knew they couldn't. Even though I wasn't in check, they knew they were like done at that point. So that is why I stand by that statement I said last time about sometimes you need to hold a certain card if you know it is the difference between you winning and losing. Artifact control, board control, all those sort of things, you sometimes have to hold them. Now on to this week's question. It's going to be a little bit shorter topic for this week, but it's about your KeyForge playstyle. What is your KeyForge playstyle? Do you have an answer to this question? And what I mean by that is, what decks do you normally gravitate to that you enjoy playing? There's also could be, do you like playing, or maybe not even like, do you recognize the necessity to play certain other styles of deck just maybe based on a situation? Maybe it's the meta, maybe it's how you know it can match up with things that could be seen within a local tournament, all those sort of aspects in the game of KeyForge. Are you aware of your own playstyle? And the best way to look at it is go look at your favorite decks, the ones you enjoy playing the most. Is there a commonality between them? For me, I'm personally really drawn to house manipulations. You may know this. Any decks where I can do a lot of house cheating, have that really cerebral sequencing thoughts about, okay, I have to do this in this sequence, and how can I really abuse going out of house and playing this card and that card and utilizing this creature even though it's not in this house. Those sort of things. That's what I love playing. And I also like efficiency decks. Those are the things. Cycle fast. I really like those decks, and not necessarily playing efficiently. Because as you know, I like to chain myself. So there's that give and take with it, which I find really interesting. So identify with yourself, answer that question, comment below. I would like to know, what type of decks do you like to play? Are they combo decks, rush decks, really control-y decks, or do you like really efficient decks? Do you like board-based decks? Do you like decks that don't utilize a board? What do you like to play? I want to know this, and I want you to take a moment to recognize in yourself what you like to play. Or are you basically a, what's the word I'm looking for? A Renaissance KeyForge player, and you like to do it all. So please comment below and let me know your thoughts on this. I'm very curious to see if there's a trend within players or if everyone is unique in this. And as always, folks, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one. Oh, also, ABR League. Join ABR League. I'm going to be a captain this season, and I'd love to see some familiar names within the draft pool for me to pull from. So, yeah, that's last final thought. Have a good one, folks.